Hello and welcome to the Pages Pixels podcast, where we talk about new movies every week. I'm Rohan,
And I'm Kevin.
and we're not actually talking about a movie today because the Oscar nominations are out. Um, so with that said, uh, Kevin, do you mind doing a quick rundown of what the Best Picture noms are?
Sure thing. So the nominees for Best Picture are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. So what do you make of that lineup just in general?
So yeah, real quick, I'm just gonna read out the ones that I have seen, haven't seen. I have not seen The Brutalist. I have seen Emilia Perez. I actually enjoyed it when I first watched it. And then after watching it, I did hear about all the controversies, and I think there was a new one today, at least at the time of this recording. Um, and I understand it, even though I personally enjoyed it, and I think that has definitely impacted my views on this movie. I watched Nora, I loved it. I watched Conclave, I thought it was very slow, um, even a bit boring at first. But then I thought the third act was so great that it kind of made up for it. Have not seen A Complete Unknown. Have not seen Wicked yet. I have watched Substance. Loved that. I watched Dune Part 2. Great movie. I don't love it as much as Twitter seems to love it. I've seen a ton of people say it's the best movie of the past 10 years. Some even say the best movie of the century so far. Don't think it's quite there for me, but pretty good. And then I have not seen Nickel Boys or I'm Still Here. Yeah, overall, I feel like pretty predictable for me. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Which ones have you seen?
So I've seen about the same amount of movies as you. I have not seen The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown. I haven't seen Conclave, I'm Still Here, or Nickel Boys. However, I think this lineup is rather strange. I think that compared to last year, I feel like a lot of well recognized movies were in, and also I think they were more well received. I feel like there's some films in here that, not speaking to my opinion of the film, but, Amelia Perez definitely is one that has not received a lot of great acclaim. I also think Wicked, even though it's got a huge like fan base backing it, there's also like probably like a vocal minority that's like very much thinking this movie is not that good. I'm sort of a part of that, but at the same time, it's a family movie. It doesn't really bother me that it's in the Oscar circulation. Like Wicked is a perfectly serviceable musical. It's also a better musical than Amelia Perez, but that's just me. I think, I don't really feel like I get bent about like what movies get nominated and what don't because there's always one or two that don't really um, work for me. I think Belfast was one where I was like completely uninterested in seeing it, and that was a nominee. There's just like I feel like there's like three Belfasts this year. Um, so yeah, but Anora I'm super happy with. The Substance I'm super happy with. It's great to see a horror film in the top 10 and one that's so just like batshit, if for lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, I'm really happy the Substance ended up making it. That was a surprise for me. I was not following the award circuit nearly as much as I did in the past. And it's funny because you mentioned that there's movies that people or I think you mentioned that there's a lot of movies that people don't know or like
Yeah, mostly like films that people don't like or the reception is not as strong. Or like I'm
yeah.
Still Here, like I don't think that was on. Well, I'm Still Here wasn't really on anyone's radar. Sing Sing was seemed to be like
Yeah.
in that ninth or tenth slot, and it got snubbed. So
And that's where it seems like it seems like that's kind of the narrative that I've been hearing, at least from not necessarily the narrative going into the Oscars, but the narrative that has happened as a reaction to these nominations. People are saying, and this happens every year. People go, "Hey, what are these movies? I don't know these movies," and that there's usually the people who really really love movies and kind of follow everything, and then there's the people who um, they casually go to a movie every once in a while, maybe watch something on Netflix every once in a while. But I think this year it stands out a little bit more for whatever reason. Last year we had Barbenheimer, that phenomenon, and then Oppenheimer, of course, ended up winning. This year I feel like we don't have a version of that. I mean, even the year before, it was Everything Everywhere. There was um, a ton of buzz for that movie, and it's even when Everything Everywhere, it was going up against other movies also like Avatar and Top Gun. So I think there's people that I guess movies more in the mainstream almost, um, but still being received as Oscar worthy. This year there's a lot of movies that yeah they are a little surprising. Amelia Perez being kind of the big example where
Well, I want to push back on the Amelia Perez. Sorry to cut you off, but
no, go
um,
ahead.
I do want to push back on that one being that surprising. I think there are two things that are surprising about it. One is more so the fact that this was a uh, film that is submitted by France for the international, um, the international slot, but it's a film that takes place in Mexico. I think that's one thing that is surprising about it. And then the other thing for me is the fact that um, just the reception of it alone from people has been so
Yeah,
negative. I think, but I always kind of had a gut feeling that the Oscars were going to push this movie, and I think that I mean it just kind of comes back to money, like what company is backing what movie and why. And I
yeah,
think Netflix is the primary like Amelia Perez is our golden goose with the
yeah.
Academy because it's very topical. And would you say that Emilia Perez is pretty digestible? Like it's really easy to watch?
I would say so. I mean, again, I thought it definitely entertained me, but I mean, that's when I said surprising. That's kind of what I was talking about. It's that there does seem to be a disconnect between the audiences, even critics. I mean, I've seen a lot of critics say that this movie is not that great. I mean, I said I think it's decent, and I think I'm one of the more positive
Mm-hmm.
people who most a lot of critics downright hate this movie. Fans also um, are downright hating this movie. Yet it's getting nominated for a ton of stuff. I know the Golden Globes isn't the best predictor of the Oscars, but it's still a big award show where they have all the celebrities and all that. So there isn't um, even though the voting pool is completely different, there is an element of importance to the Golden Globes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Definitely.
this got nominated a lot, and I think it won a few awards. Uh,
Yeah, it did win a couple of Golden Globes. And I think The Brutalist was the big winner,
yeah,
which I think right now that film seems to be like I think those two films are competing right now for Best Picture. Um,
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the Vegas odds right now, and the Brutalist is a -110 favorite. The runner up right now is Amelia Perez at +400. And basically, if you don't know how Vegas odds work, is the Brutalist being a -110 means you have to bet $110 in order to win $100, while Amelia Perez being a +400 means that if you bet $100 and Amelia Perez wins, you win $400. Um, Basically, all that translates to is the Brutalist has momentum. It's the front runner, so it's a safer bet as opposed to some of the other ones. Dune, for example, is +3,300. So if you bet $100 and you win, and Dune wins, you get $3,300, which I don't bet, but if I were to, I might just do it because um, I'm probably gonna lose that 100, but the reward is very high.
So you're gonna vote. You're gonna bet on Dune Part Two, taking it all
No,
to get
I just said I don't bet.
3 grand.
As a, if I were to bet.
Um, what are some films that you feel like were missing? Not either nominations, whether it's in Best Picture or just in general. What sort of things do you think you would have liked to see nominated?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of going back to some of my if I'm just going back to some of my favorites of the year, I don't think Monkey Man had much of a chance in most of the nominations, but I would have loved to seen it get something. I think I could definitely see that as like a screenplay nomination. Challengers didn't get
Hmm.
editing or score. Uh, yeah, that kind of shocked me.
I definitely echo that Challengers needed a nomination or two, and especially in those
Yeah,
categories. Kind of wild.
again, it just kind of goes. I think that's the big narrative where I think this year more than any other year, there is that feeling of like, wait, what? That movie got nominated? These weren't surprising because they were kind of the front runners per se, or um, but a lot of them are also just. It did feel like a lot of these movies just they got released and they came and went.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I feel like this was a very odd year when it came to like campaigning, and I mean, the only things I feel like stayed in the race from like the coverage that I watched were Amelia Perez, The Brutalist, um, and uh, I think Dune Part Two. I mean, that was probably the biggest lock of anything.
yeah,
Um, but I feel like late into the year, like Wicked just kind of came out of nowhere.
yeah,
Anora got such great praise at Cannes that it was up there. Um, I even saw like Nickel Boys like starting to come on the rise, but people were not really sure if it would make it in. Um, and that was probably like probably the biggest surprising nomination behind I'm Still Here, which I don't think anyone
right.
really had predicted at all.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm not saying um, you got to nominate the big studio pictures. I know a lot of people are very upset at the best director nominees and um, Denis Denis Villeneuve not getting it. Um, I'm not opposed. I don't really. I know I used to be like that where um, especially like for example comic movies. I was like, oh, how could they not nominate this comic book movie? Um, whether it's, for example, Logan. I know a lot of people were very surprised Logan didn't get big nominations in 2018. But then like later, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I like the smaller movies. Because then more people will hear about them and watch them. But and I'm all for that. But this year, it just I don't know. I think there's other films that there was a lot of there was a lot of hype for that were also would be considered a smaller movie, like a Sing Sing. Um,
Hmm.
that just completely missed out.
I think Sing Sing is also just another thing going back to campaigning. Like Sing Sing had A24 for their campaign, and
Yeah,
A24 has stopped really focusing on being an artistic indie company and more on being a crowd pleasing company and making I almost think that they're gonna pivot to making blockbusters. I'm not really sure if their pivot has worked um at the moment. Like I feel like a lot of their movies like while there's some of them are still well received, they haven't been like they still aren't like Oscar contenders, and they also still are not like big blockbusters either. Like they haven't been able to like make a hit since I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last big A24 hit, and it would
was
be
everything
hard to think.
everywhere A24?
Yeah, it was. So
Yeah, yeah, just a weird year.
why don't we make some predictions? I have two categories prepared that I'd like to predict for, and also at the end we can see like which film we think is going to win Best Picture at the Oscars. Uh, well, one category I wanted to highlight was makeup and hairstyling. I was pretty happy with this category overall. I just recently watched A Different Man, and I've seen The Substance and Wicked and Emilia Perez. The only one I haven't seen is Nosferatu. But from the trailers and everything I've seen, Nosferatu seems like it was a great
Yeah.
nomination. But for that category, I'm going to predict The Substance is the winner because
Oh yeah.
my goodness, they have so much cool stuff in that movie, like the
Yeah.
Monstro Elisa Sue.
Yeah. And again, we're talking about betting odds. Or at least I'm talking about betting odds, but Substance is a minus 280 favorite. With the next one being Wicked plus 250. Isn't a huge gap, but still, like, it's still significant.
The other
Um,
category that I would like to highlight is the original screenplay. Um, I think this is definitely a better lineup than the adapted screenplay. Um,
yeah.
and granted, I still have only seen two of them, but I like that we got a bit more variety here, with September 5 and A Real Pain not being Best Picture noms, but they made it into screenplay. And A Real Pain seems like, you've talked about it. I'm really excited to see it. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm really rooting for Anora in this category.
It's
I
going to be
think
an
the
aura.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because the Brutalist is there. I think the
It
Brutalist
is.
could beat it.
Yeah, I know I haven't seen The Brutalist. Honora just seems to have the momentum. And I mean,
Hmm.
I'm looking at the odds right now. Honora is a minus 400, and The Brutalist is a plus 600. That's a significant favorite. Um,
Hmm. I just
yeah,
hope it's not
Brutalist
like a
winning would be a big
consolation.
upset.
I just hope it's not a consolation prize because like Honora has such great dialogue. It's so funny. Like
Yeah.
I think it will win, but I'm worried that that means it can't win Best Picture. So
Hmm.
yeah. What
Yeah.
categories were you looking toward?
I was actually one of them I was looking at was Best Original. So you stole
Uh,
it. But yeah, I guess the two that I want to talk about, so first, I'm going to go with Best Actress. Um, and the reason why I want to bring it up is because I'm very happy to see Demi Moore
hmm.
get the nomination, as well as Mikey. Is it Mickey or Mikey
It's
Madison?
Mikey.
Yeah, as well as Mikey Madison. I think they're both great. I think the race is between the two of them. I'm going to go with Demi Moore as my prediction.
I
Um,
would really love to see Demi Moore
yeah,
win that. Um,
uh-huh.
especially over Gascon after recent things just came out.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
I mean, if you want the betting odds, Demi Moore is the favorite, although it's a minus 163, so not a huge favorite. Um, but it's Demi Moore and then Mikey Madison and then Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, and then it's Carla Sofia Gascon,
Mm.
and then Cynthia Erivo.
So we're not holding
Um,
space for Cynthia to upset.
I mean, it's she's nominated. It's technically possible, but I doubt it. The next, uh, the next category I want to talk about is best animated feature.
Hmm.
Um, this is a The Wild Robot was I ranked it as my number one movie of last year. Um, and I still stand by that. And it is kind of a two horse race between Flow and The Wild Robot. I know Flow has been winning the other one, so it's the front runner, and I don't know what to pick. I'm looking at the odds here, and Flow is a minus 110. Wild Robot is a minus 125. So both of them have negative odds, which is extremely rare. And the difference is it is minuscule. It might as well be a coin flip. Inside Out 2, by the way, is plus 2,000. Wallace and Gromit is also plus 2,000. Memories of a Snail is plus 3,500. Um, so it really does seem those three are out of the race, and it's only going to be between the Wild Robot and Flow. Um, I don't know what to pick, but like my brain says Flow, heart says Wild Robot, so I'm gonna go with the Wild Robot. Um, I think
It's really. Oh yeah.
I think there's a
Go ahead.
chance.
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on like what do you value more nominations, or is it the quality of the other nomination that Flo got, which is to be in Best International for the country of Latvia.
Right.
I mean,
Hmm.
that does speak to the film's quality a lot, but I also see that that happens a couple of times where animated films will get in other things. For example, I think Flea was something that people were predicting that and it got in Best Documentary and Animated, but it didn't win either. Um, and I really like that film. I think
Hmm.
I think Flow has a good chance, but The Wild Robot
Yeah.
has two extra nominations, and they're both like solid categories to have them in. So,
Yep. Also, I misspoke. I said Flow was the favorite. Technically, the Wild Robot is the favorite. It's a minus 125. So that is the favorite, but Flow is right there behind it.
and now for Best Picture, what are you uh staking your bet on metaphorically?
I'm gonna say it's the Brutalist. I think. Uh, Funny enough, Adrian Brody is probably a front runner for uh Best Actor also, and he will probably get it. But I think the Brutalist has a better chance of winning Best Picture than Adrian Brody does as Best Actor, and basically everyone is predicting Adrian Brody to win Best Actor.
um, as much as I would love to see The Substance win out of in a very shocking turn of events, I
Just like the end of
think
the movie.
yeah, I mean, I think that okay, if The Substance wins Best Picture, can they parade out the monster? Just
I
and spray
yeah,
blood
I
all over everyone. Like
That's gonna be the acceptance speech. It's not gonna be the producer or any of the actors. It's gonna be the monster.
I'm going to predict The Brutalist with Honora as my secondary because I don't think Perez actually. I think it's over nominated, but I don't think it's gonna win. I think it's
I
like
do think the backlash might
yeah,
affect it. There's just been
that definitely hurts.
controversy after controversy, and I know that it's like, hey, it didn't affect it for the other awards like the Golden Globes, but the Oscars are the last one. Um,
Hmm.
so sometimes a movie can have momentum at the beginning and then have it fizzle out.
Right. And I think that is what it is. I mean, it just I mean, last year it did feel like the favorite was going to be either Oppenheimer or maybe even Poor Things. I think it was like a kind of like a two-horse race there, and then but then like after you saw the nominations, like Oppenheimer just kind of took it.
Yeah, I think those. Yeah, I think last year, weirdly enough, was more predictable. From
Hmm.
the, even though I know I said this year was predictable. I guess I meant predictable in almost a boring way. But last year, Oppenheimer was. It was kind of predictable that it was going to win Best Picture almost from the start.
That said, I do think this year suffers from the fact that I like the movie Maestro more than two of the other nominations. So, and I
It's
thought that movie
odd.
sucked.
It is odd because I liked the. Uh, I feel like 2024 was actually a quite was actually a really great year for movies. I don't know, these
Mhm.
nominations just feel underwhelming for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think if I could like make some swaps like to make myself feel happy, it would be like swapping Amelia for Challengers and um maybe like something that I don't know, like a complete unknown. I can live with Wicked being there, but like a complete unknown, swap that with like All We Imagine Is Light. Um, just anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so well,
We were talking about last year versus this year. Um,
mhm.
I went and looked at the odds for last year before the Oscars happened, and I think this was like these odds came out. Yeah, these odds came out a day before. the Oscars happened, or at least the ones I'm looking at from last year. Yeah, Oppenheimer was going into the ceremony as a -$5,000 favorite, or as a -5,000 favorite, with Poor Things being a +2,000 runner up. So that's a 7,000 difference. Yeah,
Oof.
again, you have to bet, you have to put in $5,000, and your winning would be $100 if you had bet on Oppenheimer last year. So that is how heavy of a favorite it was.
That, yeah. At some point, it's like, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of the Pages to Pixels podcast. We will return to you in just a few, was it a few weeks or is it a month for the Oscars recap?
Yeah, I want yeah, about a month I want to say.
Yeah. So we will return to you with the Oscars recap, going over the ceremony, how thankful we are to not see Jimmy uh, Kimmel, and yeah, we will see if our predictions come true. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.